Welcome back, everyone. And this is the lab in the packet tracer that we were talking about on the board in the previous lesson. And as you can see, you have all your different VLANs and your networks and the 3 web servers plus your 2 routers. All right. One of the things that you need to make sure you download before you start this lab is the material I put up there for you. You have a Word document that explains the lab step by step. And you have the spreadsheet, which I have open already to make sure we put in the correct IP addresses to match the lab for your DHCP, TFTP web servers, the ranges for each VLAN, because we'll be using the first available IP address for each PC and the last available IP address for the gateways, all right, and which VLANs we're going to assign to each switch and what department they belong to. You can see here is classroom 10, classroom 20 for VLAN 10, VLAN 20, and so forth. All right, now this lab is also going to give you a good idea on how to configure certain basic configs and a little bit more than just a little basic configs and how to get around the packet tracer a little bit. I will be making a video just on packet tracer and how to move around the packet tracer and configure. All right, so the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and start assigning the IP addresses statically to the servers. All right, we always want to do our servers first and we'll start worrying about everything else. There's not really much work that we're going to do on the PCs because they're going to be receiving the IP addresses dynamically through this DHCP server. We'll talk about that in a little bit. All right, so let's go ahead and go to the TFTP server. All right, we go to the desktop tab. Now let's just make sure what network this is. This should be the 10.100.0 network using a CIDR 27. So let me put this right here. That's going to be 10.100.0. Now we're going to be using the second IP address for the TFTP server. My DHCP is actually going to have the first available IP address. So this is going to be the .2. And then we're going to go 255. Let me get the mouse out of the way. 255, 255, 224. Now the gateway for this, remember 27, you have an increment of 32. So if you start from 0, the next network is 32. One less is the broadcast of this network, and one less is your broadcast, is your gateway. So 10.100.0.30. And now the DNS server. Now the only one that we're going to use as a DNS server is this external web server. Since he's the web server, we're going to go ahead and put DNS on that server. He will be his own DNS server. Now the DNS and the DHCP that we're going to configure and nowhere near resembles the real DHCP server or the real DNS, but this is a lab, and the tools that Cisco actually gave us within the packet tracer are very nice. At least we can simulate DNS and we can simulate a DHCP server. I'm sorry, I do apologize with my throat. I'm getting a little sick, so I gotta clear every so often. I do apologize about that. All right, so let's go ahead and put the IP address, which is 71.25.83.65. We'll use the web server has the first available IP address. So we got that done. Now you're saying, hey, this is the TFTP server. We're going to be backing up to that. Where does it go? Well, if you go to the config tab on any one of these servers or even the PCs, there's different things you can configure. Now in the servers, obviously you can have a lot more. In this case, we're interested in the TFTP tab. There's really nothing that you really need to do. It's on by default, as you can see right here. Okay, and these are iOS's, the operating system that already exists. So you can practice, let's say, reloading it to your router, or having it boot to the router, or copying an iOS back, or copying your startup configuration, which is what you're going to do. All right, so it's already there set for you. All you really need to do is just run the commands on the router for it to go ahead and back up everything you need. So there's not real much that we're going to do on this server right here. All right, so we're pretty much done. We put in the IP addresses. We're happy with it. Let's go ahead and close it. Now let's go ahead and let's do the external web server in here. All right, we'll come back to the DHCP in a second because I want to take my time explaining what we do there as well. All right, so first thing we're going to do, obviously, is set up the IP configuration. That's in the desktop tab. All right, and that's the 71.25.83.65. Now, in this case, pay attention to the mask. We're using a 29. All right, so that means 255. 255, we have 5 bits on, so that's 248. 5 bits on. that little table, right? If you haven't seen the IP version 4 video, I suggest you see it so you can see all how the subnet mask and all that stuff works. All right, now the default gateway, now this is a 29. We're using the 64 network, okay? So it increments by 8. So the next network would be 72. One less is 71, which is the 64's broadcast. Then the last available would be 70. So in this case, 71.25.83.70. That would be the default gateway for this particular broadcast domain or subnet. And then he is his own DNS server, so 71.25.83.65. Okay, he's going to be his own DNS. And we click close when we're satisfied with that. Let's take a look at the spreadsheet real quick to make sure that we're on point. As you can see, the TFTP server is 10.100.02, the TFTP with the gateway of 30. And then the web server that we just did is 65 with the gateway of 70. And you can see everybody's going to have the same DNS configuration, which is, or IP address, which is the 65, which is the external web server. All right, let's go ahead and go back to the lab. Now we're here in the external web server. Now we need to simulate DNS. The whole point that we're putting in DNS IP addresses is so we can go on a browser, meaning this right here, and type www.udemy.com, let's say. All right, and we'll be able to get a web page that loads up, or simulating a web page that loads up within the program. So you want to go to the config tab. Okay, you go to the config tab and you look for the DNS button under services. So you click on DNS. Now again, nowhere near what a real DNS is, but we're simulating. So we want to type www.udemy.com, which is the host A record, right? And we actually know that in DNS, this is the actual host record. This would be the domain name. But again, we're not teaching Microsoft here, so we'll go ahead and just use the fully qualified domain name, right? And then the IP address will be the IP address of the actual web server. So this would be 71.25.83.65. And then we click add. All right, and then we have that. Now, unfortunately, we can't test it right now because it's not connected to a switch. This is simulating a crossover cable directly connected to the router. Very rare, if none at all, you'll ever see that in the real world scenario where a server is directly connected to a router. You're always going to have it connected to either a layer 3 switch, as some of you use out there, or an actual firewall, all right, connected to the firewall for a public web server. But never directly to a router. But here, just to not put another switch out there, just do something fairly quick as an external web server. All right, but we'll be testing this throughout at the end of the lab, really, once we have the routers configured. All right, so that's how you go ahead and configure DNS. You can keep putting on more host records if you wanted to. If you had other domains that you want to go ahead and have configured. Now, for fun, and now what I'm about to do is just for fun. You don't have to do it. That will be cool to see. Right here in the web server, if you go to the HTTP button, all right, and I'm not trying to teach you HTML or anything, but in between the tags right here, these are font tags right here, you're going to select the where it says Cisco Packet Tracer. Okay, the mouse doesn't want to work. Let me go ahead and just do it like this. You want to go ahead and take out Cisco Packet Tracer. Now you can put whatever you want. You can put, your name. You can put, whatever. I'm going to put welcome to Udemy, right? So you know that when you type in the www.udemy.com, you should get this web page with that title. And there's really no saving here. You don't have to save anything. After you've done it and you go somewhere else, it's already there for you. So there's no saving involved. All right, so we're done. We're satisfied with the configurations we've put in there. And always verifying, because Packet Tracer sometimes acts a little quirky and your IPs just disappear. So make sure you do that. All right, so we've got the TFTP, we got the external web server. Now let's go ahead and go to the DHCP server, okay? Let's put the IP address there. Now this is the first available IP address within that network, okay? Remember, the TFTP server was 10.100.0.2, the DHCP server is going to be 10.100.0.1. And the mask, 255.255.255.224. Okay? Where the other one, the web server, was 248 because it was 29. Default gateway is going to be the same as the TFTP server, which is going to be 30. And then the DNS server is our external web server, 71.25.83.65. Okay? So we're satisfied. We'll close that. Now here, we have to create the scopes. All right? So we go in the config tab, click on the DHCP, and because we need to now create a scope for each one of these subnets. Now let me explain this real quick. Now we are in one switch, and you're saying, well, my God, Laz, we're in one switch. How can multiple subnets exist on one switch? Because we have VLANs. And what do VLANs do on a switch? They break up broadcast domains. So each broadcast domain will be a different segment, different subnet in each one of those switches. Okay? So the DHCP server is going to, you can put it statically, but it's going to assign IP addresses, or not assign, what is it? We'll call it assign. Assign IP addresses or lease addresses to each one of those PCs. But there's an issue, because we know that you cannot assign, a DHCP server will not assign or lease addresses beyond its own broadcast domain, because it has to go through a router, doesn't it? Even though we're on the same switch, but we're on different broadcast domains. So once we configure this, you're going to see that it's not going to work at first, because information has to travel through that router. And routers do not like broadcast coming at it. It will drop the packet. So how do you make this work? This is why the lab is called the IP helper address. You have choices. You can create the DHCP server on the router and be done with it. You don't have to go ahead and have an actual DHCP server. You can go ahead and have a DHCP relay agent per subnet, right? One for VLAN 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. That's more licensing. And the purpose of the relay agent, as we all know, or will know in a second, because I'll tell you, all right, it's to intercept that DORA, that discover that the hosts do when they wake up looking for an IP address, and go on its behalf to the router using a unicast address rather than a broadcast address. All right, and pick the right IP address for that particular segment. But what we're going to do is use the IP helper. And the IP helper acts like a DHCP relay agent. And all you got to do is just a simple command on the router, and then it will intercept, and then it will assign the IP addresses to that. All right, so that's why we're doing the different scopes and how is it going to get assigned to the different segments. Okay? All right, let's go ahead and start doing that. And here we go. All right, this is where your spreadsheet may come in handy, because again, we're going to be using, especially 30, 62, these are the last addresses, because you need to assign the gateway addresses. So we'll be coming back and forth to make sure we don't mess up. Now, before you start doing your scopes, there's already a default pool that exists. As you can see, it picked up the network that's within the static addressing. You need to change that. If you don't, it's going to cause conflicts. So what I like to do is just put something, way crazy, so I know that it won't interfere at all. I'll put something like that, and then you can put, let's say, 252. All right, whatever. But it's something way out of that has nothing to do with you, and then click save, and you can see it changed it down here. All right. So now let's begin. Okay, so the first one we're going to do is for VLAN 10. So we go VLAN 10. Now, what is VLAN's 10 gateway? So we go to our spreadsheet. Here's VLAN 10, because VLAN 2 is the IT department. That's the one we just did statically. VLAN 10, the last available IP address is 62. All right, so we go 10.100.62, 10.100.0.62. The DNS server, we all know, is the public web server, which is 71.25.83.65. Now, if you're not sure and you forget, just like me, I forget a bunch of times, so I want to make sure 71.25.83.65 that I have the correct DNS server, because I mean, you can always come back and edit this, but if you, that's one of the hardest things in IT. You got to, the planning, the up front, the setup and everything is the one that takes the longest. So take your time, plan everything accordingly, have everything in front of you, and just take your time as you go. Because once everything is set up, you can sit back, watch YouTube, and that's it. All right, so 71.25.83.65. Now we're gonna put the start IP address. So the start IP address for those networks is, you see, is 33, at least in this one, and then the next one 65 and so forth. So let's go ahead. Oops. All right, so the start IP address for this one is 10.100. Oh, that's right, sorry. You gotta tab over. 10.100.0 tab, you see, and I forgot already. For this network, it's gonna be 33, okay? All right, so we got 33 there. So 10.100, the mask is gonna be 224. All right, we're using a SATA 27. So we got the name, VLAN 10, the gateway address, the DNS server, and then 10.100.0.33 and the right mask. Maximum number of users, let's put 12. And then the TFTP server address, you can put in there as well, 10.100.0.2. All right, and then you don't click save. At this point, you're adding a pool. So you click add, and there's your pool right there. Okay, all right, let's go to the next one. So we got VLAN 20 next. And the gateway for that one is 94. You see VLAN 20 right here? 94. So let's take care of that. 10.100.0.94. DNS server, it's 71.25.83.65. And then we change this to 10.100.0. And what is the gateway address for this one? Over here, it's 65. Or not the gateway, I'm sorry, the first available, 65. And then the subnet mask is 224. Okay, so that now will be VLAN 20. We verify. Let's put, well, we're not done. Let's put 12 hosts here. And let's put the TFTP server, which is 2. And then click add. And there you have VLAN 20. All right, and to make it easier, have this selected, one of these, so you don't have to change much things. You see that I had the default, I went back here and I had to change pretty much everything. If you select this, you'll be a lot less that you got to do. All right, so now we go to VLAN 30. VLAN 30. And if you can say 0, 32, which is the one we just did, all right? 64 is the next one, all right? This is VLAN 30. So if you look at VLAN 30 here, it's the it's the 96 network, 0, 32, 64, 96. So the gateway is 126. You come here, change that to 126. Okay, and then the DNS server stays the same. What is the first available IP address? Well, this is the 96, so it would be 97. Again, you have your spreadsheet, verify, 97, okay? Always do that, because I always think, I kind of second guess myself. So I'm like, oh, let me make sure this is correct. And there's no harm in doing that. Actually, it's what you should be doing. Always go back and verify. So when you actually try and test, you know that you can narrow down the issue when you're troubleshooting if there is an issue. All right, so we got our VLAN 10, VLAN 20. This is VLAN 30. We got everything we need. Let's go ahead and add it. Perfect. May I select it? Now let's do VLAN 40. Okay, VLAN 40. What is the gateway for VLAN 40? We go here, check out the spreadsheet. That's 158, the last available IP address. Okay, 158. All right. And what's the first available IP address? Is 129. So we come here. 129. So you got VLAN 40, the last available, which is the gateway, the DNS server. You see? I always got to verify. Because my brain says one thing, my fingers go do something else. All right, so 10.1.0.158, 71.25.83.65. First available IP address is 129. Correct mask, correct everything else. VLAN 40. And click add. All right. And then that's 40. So we're going to do the last VLAN now, which is 50. Okay. What is the last? Now we got 190 as the gateway and 161 as the first available. So the gateway is, oh my God, I can't believe I just forgot. I need to start eating some blueberries. 190. Okay. 190, same DNS, and 161. Okay. And everything else stays the same. Let me verify those two numbers. Okay, 161 and 190. Everything's good to go, and click add. So now you got your different pools, okay, of addresses that you're going to use. You got 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. Your DHCP server is ready to go, okay? And it should assign all these IPs to everything else. So we make sure that this stayed in place. So now your servers are good to go. And remember, you see these green lights, because these green lights are attached to the switch, they're automatically on. Okay, the web server's light is not on here, green, because again, this interface is down the router. But now we have our servers all set up, ready to go. Now, the next step would be to start configuring the VLANs on the switches, assigning the VLANs to the ports, and actually configuring the trunk ports. Okay, so that'll be in the next lesson. So make sure you got your IP squared away here. Okay, and verify. I'll see you in the next lesson.